Now, the other big story for the week, and this one I will call Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook's AI advantage. If you look at the recent announcements by all the tech companies, they've posted stellar, and I mean stellar results. 20% growth, 30% growth, 40% growth quarter on quarter. Those are results that you would expect a startup to have. So let's think about this for a second, right? As investors tour the world looking for investments that can generate exponential or at least breakthrough returns, you wouldn't expect companies that have a $1.5 trillion market cap, a $2 trillion market cap, who have a 50% share of a market, or even in some cases an 80% share of a market, to post such significant increases in growth, net income, and their share prices. But that's what we're seeing with tech companies. Now, in a manner of speaking, a couple of things are going to happen here. One is investors who want large returns and traditionally would have parked it in startups and alternative investments, which generally generate such high returns but at a higher risk, now feel more compelled to park those investments in behemoth companies, the tech behemoths, who are going to be able to generate the same returns for them. Now, the question mark is whether they'd be able to continue posting those returns post-COVID. But the signs are pretty good that they are going to continue posting significant margins, if not the same level. Now, Netflix is an exception to this rule, but I think that Netflix will still continue growing. They have a lot of room to grow. Disney is a big threat for them, but I've left out Netflix on this story. The question becomes, why are they growing so fast? What makes them different? What makes them different is their use of AI. In a manner of speaking, if you think about it very carefully, intelligence is determined as the rate at which you learn. And in many companies, traditional companies, the rate at which they learn is how often they can get their employees together, have a workshop, extract best practices, write that up, set up working groups, set up focus groups, go out and change some practice, roll out some new thing for customers. Google, Amazon, Microsoft, they use AI whereby a lot of the learning takes place automatically. The more they can learn, the more they can roll out the changes from their learnings. The more they can do all of that automatically means the rate at learning is much faster, which means as they know what works and what doesn't work, the rate of evolution is faster. And that's the key thing. That's the deep insight here. If you want to grow rapidly, you don't set up the world's most formidable planning department. Because if you live in a world whereby you need to take 6 months to plan something and roll it out, that's the old model. The new model is whereby you need to have some mechanism, and it usually has to be automated because machines can learn faster than humans. If intelligence is the rate at which you can learn, you are going to be at a serious disadvantage if the maximum, the ceiling of your rate is how fast a group of humans can get together and roll out changes. You just can't keep up with machines. So what you have is when you've built a business model whereby everything can be automated, all the learning can be automated, and all of the lessons from the learnings can be automated and rolled out to test if customers like it. If your business model is to automate all of that, you will have what is known as scaled growth. And we're seeing that with Apple, we're seeing that with Amazon and so on. Now, of course, scaled growth is driven by data. AI is driven by data, and the data is what matters. Because as you move into new markets like India and so on, you need data, usually that's relevant to that market, not always. So it's not as if you can just take the AI engine that Amazon uses in the United States and plug it into India and it'll just work, because you need to teach that AI engine how to do things, and more or less you're going to have data from India. So there are many insights here, but probably the most important one is you've got to know what's driving these tech companies. It's the rate at which they are learning. What drives the rate at which they are learning is AI. What drives the AI's ability to increase its rate of learning is two things. One is having access to the right data, not necessarily more data, but more of the data needed. And obviously, next to that, you need to have a system, a business model, whereby all of the learnings can be quickly implemented. And of course, companies that don't make those changes are going to be left behind. It just can't compete at that level of scale. A bank that is using AI is obviously going to do better than a bank that's not using AI. And that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed doing the episode. Finally, I want you to remember that the only way to get access to our special offers, the only way to get our special pricing, and the only way to get samples of our content is to join the list on firmsconsulting.com. It's the only way also to get access to our unique advanced content that we make available to insiders. So if you want to get a sneak peek of things, test it out, see what's in there, this is the place to go. And finally, I want to thank you again for making us one of the largest podcast channels around the world for careers and for the 2 million downloads and counting.